missing a day or a week isn't failure, it's feedback. Even that feeling of is feedback. It's letting you know that you want something different in your life. You have already evolved to that place to want more in your life, and something in likely your brain, isn't allowing you to go there. Okay, so see it as feedback. Well, welcome to Intuition, Your Success Compass. I'm Vicki Baird, your host and wisdom-led mindset coach. This podcast is where intuition meets strategy and mindset meets meaning. I help smart, successful humans stop overthinking and start trusting their inner wisdom, because your clarity, self-surety, and next level life are already within you. With over 2 decades of coaching experience, a knack for systems, and a gift for spotting what's off, be it a saboteur thought or an out-of-alignment choice, I'm here to help you connect your brilliant brain with your soul's knowing. You'll get grounded insights, little humor, and real-life tools to create change that actually sticks, like your go-to morning brew, familiar, grounding, and the nudge you didn't know you needed. And I love coffee, so that works too. Welcome. Well, hi there, and thank you for joining me in Intuition, Your Success Compass. That noise was me knocking over something on the desk. That's the way we like to roll into a podcast. Total chaos. Just kidding. So thank you for being here, for taking the time, maybe going for a walk with me. Maybe you're listening on a drive or vacuuming. I like to listen to the podcasts I love while I'm cleaning, because it feels like it goes into my body more if I'm moving. And I wonder if you're the same. Or do you sit there with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, maybe looking out over your beautiful landscape and listening to me go on and on? So this week, we are going to talk about habits. And one of the reasons is because I just believe in them so much. And I feel like once you pay attention to the benefits of them, you can then reap the benefits of them. It does take a little bit of work, and that's okay. That's okay. Every little bit of effort is worth it, and we will do it piece by piece. So last month, for instance, I said, I really want to read more. The day goes by and it's very active. And by the time I get to sit down with a book in my hand, I end up falling asleep. I miss reading. I miss taking in that quiet information. Everything's become so verbal and auditory in my life, and sometimes that jumbles my brain. And I wanted to start reading more. And I pictured myself, did a little fast forward intention. What would it feel like to read more than a few pages before I pass out, and then have to read the same few pages the next night because I don't remember what I was reading because I was so tired. It's a good thing to be tired at the end of the day, but I pictured myself, sitting in a chair like I used to do before all this technology showed up, and getting lost in a story, or studying more about neuroplasticity, or reading up on the gardening that I'm attempting to understand, and all of the different seasons and the flowers that we have. And it lasted about, 3 days. And then my judge, my inner biatch, came in and said, see, you never stick with things. You don't carry it through. You have all these grandiose ideas and all these intentions, but you never follow through. And I remember using my positive intelligence, using the energy and the practices that I know to pause, take a breath, and say, while it is true that after 3 days, I did not do that, did not show up to read, I'm also creating a new habit. And a new habit cannot come just by wanting something. Wanting is the spark. It's the light that happens. But habits are the fuel. They're what keep that light burning. They're what create the momentum, but also the consistency in order to become a habit. Because a habit isn't there until you're putting some energy into it. Just like you don't have to think about brushing your teeth. I hope you don't have to think about brushing your teeth. Or if you've got some neurodivergence in there, good for you. Maybe you have to think about brushing your teeth, but there's still a habit underneath that says, "Oh, I remember that at least twice a day, I put that toothpaste on and I roll with it. Oh, I just switched to it's called No BS, and it's some of the best. I won't even call it toothpaste because they're these little knobs, I think they call them, and you chew it a little bit and then you brush your teeth. Most satisfying teeth brushing experience I've ever had. So a little side travel there, but I love sharing the products that I find that I feel are so good, and it's made up of can't say the word, can't pronounce the word unless it's right in front of me, but the minerals that your teeth are also made of. So it creates a strengthening in there. And no, this isn't a paid advertising. I just love this stuff. So that habit that's there got there because you may not remember it, but time after time, there was that desire to brush your teeth because they felt fuzzy, or it was the parent telling you to go brush your teeth, or if you're of my age, you chewed those little red tablets in school and they told you of all the places you were missing where you were brushing, and that inspired you to brush your teeth more. Each habit that's there started because you did the micro movements and you put a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Today, we're going to talk about why wanting something is not enough to create the habits that actually work for your incredibly full, beautiful life, and how to quiet that judge so you can build what you want in your life or you can create what you want in your life. And maybe that's more quiet, but that is also a habit. Learning to pause is a habit. So there's a myth that we've all been sold on. And I call it I don't call it this. I heard this one time, bro marketing, where it's like, just get out there and make if you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. Just push, 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 push. And it's like I think of that bro energy in the gym. I've been blessed to have amazing bros in the gym, but that, kind of full of grr, the motivation myth. We've been sold the idea that a strong enough desire will carry you through, and that's not true. A desire can inspire, right? And it can be that spark, but it's not going to carry you through because desire fades. I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship, but it ebbs and flows. Desire fades in the face of stress, fatigue, distraction. And there's so much distraction that's going on right now in our lives because we are busy and I hope living a most fulfilled life. I can get easily distracted by weeding in the garden or, the pups looking at me because they want to, got to say it differently because they're in the room, wander somewhere. And I can get distracted and say, all right, let's do this. So that desire is easily faded when any of this comes up. Hunger. Through the lens of neuroplasticity and doing PQ reps and positive intelligence, the judge saboteur, so that inner biatch, the critic, often whispers in your left brain, it's always the left brain, you don't want this bad enough, or you're lazy. You can't follow through. What's your problem? Every time I see a video of this, like on TikTok or something, my heart, oh, I just want to hug the people and say, okay, that might be true that you didn't follow through on that thing. Maybe it wasn't the thing for you, but let's look at habits. Let's look at how we can support you in creating what it is that you would like to have. It's not about willpower. That's BS. It is absolutely not about willpower. It's about systems, and it's about creating the fun within those systems. And I think even the reward process, like a lot of the reward for me right now is, my cucumber plant is producing and our tomatoes are popping out things. That's the reward for goodness, all of the work that went into creating the garden. And we have to remember that, like, we are very reward-based beings. it works for us to do that. And some of that might be survival, but when you're not in a survival and need every day, that component is still there. So we have to think about, how can we have a spark? Can you fan that spark so that it becomes a nice, you know, small burning fire? And then how do we create the habits that will then fuel that fire? You have to keep adding wood to a fire if you want to enjoy it long enough. So think about every one of us. Well, that's a blanket statement, Vicky. Some of us have thought about the treadmill in January, right? Like, I'm going to get on there. I'm going to be there every day. Don't do that to yourself. You're not going to be there every day. Start with 2 times a week that you're there. I'm going to do it. And you can feel that spark, and you feel invigorated and inspired by those around you. And then in February, if you're still on that treadmill, it's because you created a habit. And something in you got attached to that habit. And that's so wonderful, because habits are behaviors that run on autopilot. So if you're someone who has moved your body enough, you know the feeling of, oh, I got to move. I got to get up. I got to wiggle. I got to walk. I got to go for a hike. I got to do some yoga. It's because the habit is there and it's running on autopilot, so that you don't have to put as much energy into it. And you move from this decision fatigue to a default action, something that just happens because it's wired within you. And I don't know about you, but I get so tired of making decisions. I just had a lovely session where we talked about having AI help us with our what to eat for dinner for the week and how to bring that about, because decision fatigue is real, and especially when you mix it with hungry. So you want a default action. And some of that default action could, in meal planning, could be that you sit down on Sundays and you spend half an hour. And if you get it into enough of a pattern and you work with AI, you could just say, oh, what was that menu for the week one of the month, so that you're not constantly reinventing the wheel. So you're not failing because you lack discipline. Let me say that again. You're not failing at all if you continue to show up. Failing is stopping and never doing anything again. You don't lack discipline. You're struggling because you keep starting from scratch, even if you've changed what you're doing. So maybe it went from eating well to working out to drinking more water to getting better sleep. All of these are fabulous. Love that. But you may start over again and again and again, rather than building on that tiny, consistent action that then gets embedded, so that your desire becomes inevitable, 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 and the outcome becomes inevitable because you put the tiny, consistent action into place. Just had a conversation with someone earlier today who we've talked about for quite a while, about keeping her house in a somewhat picked up state so that it's not so hard to do. And she told me she was so happy to celebrate that it took her 15 minutes, she timed it, to clean up her whole downstairs, because she has been putting in the individual consistent action that at first was really hard. And it's okay to admit that this is really hard, that this feels like a heavy lift. But if you ask yourself, okay, what tiny, consistent, that's what's important here, consistent action can I embed in myself so that my desired outcome becomes inevitable? That's working with your wisdom. That's working with your soul and with your sage. Remember, your soul is lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. It doesn't feel any need to get it done right now. It wants to build on the success it's had in learning and in each each experience. So for my example of wanting to read more, I con- had a conversation with my inner judge that said, well, you won't follow through with this. And then reprogrammed the idea with, yes, I will. And I am going to make it one page I read at night. So therefore, I am automatically successful. And that one page, it often leads to a couple pages. I'm a fast reader. But just having that one page there means that when I hit success, it quiets the saboteur because after a few weeks of that, there's no longer that you won't do this. There starts to be a belief that I will absolutely do that. And perhaps even end up in that hammock that I have in the backyard, reading, while the dogs hang out outside. So that's the desired outcome. And I will have that be inevitable because the tiny, consistent actions, I'll report back when that happens. So it's the same if you want to move more. Well, we don't have to commit to 3 days at the gym doing cardio and lifting. You can start 2-minute stretches before you have your mushroom coffee in the morning or before you stretch in conversation, before you reach for that phone. Let's do it before you reach for the phone. A habit that I've just created, mostly because it was so hot in the afternoons and I couldn't get the pups out, is first thing in the morning. As soon as the cats are fed and everything, we go out and we do at least 20 minutes, half an hour of exploring. And then we come back and you know what? They sleep for a while. So that's good too. But that habit is there and they're helping me because they show up right next to their harnesses ready to go. So I don't know if you've heard this term, but stacking habits. It's much like it is pairing a habit with something you already do. So for instance, when I'm brushing my teeth, I do have a little bit of the squirrel. I wander around, or previously would wander around and do other things while I was brushing my teeth. Now I stand there, I do my mirror work. I make eye contact with myself. I do a gratitude list. If it's in the morning, it's what's going to happen today and the gratitude I have for that, the clients I'm meeting, maybe I'm volunteering. Maybe it's one of those rare days where there's nothing on the schedule, and I'm so grateful for that. If it's in the evening, I'm doing the gratitude list. 3 things. It does not have to be a long list. Sometimes I'm so grateful it's bedtime. So stacking habits will allow you to pair up the neural pathways in your brain that already exist and that are already familiar with this process that you have, and get to tag along, right? Like the thing that you want to create is tagging along on the end of that. So I have, I don't know if it's stacking habit, but as I walk through the house, because I don't like a cluttered environment, as I walk through the house, I'm going to be walking through it anyway. And the setup of our house is unique in that when I leave my office, I have to pass through almost every room of my downstairs except for the living room. And that makes for great picking up, putting things where they belong. So the habit is I'm already walking, maybe I'm going to get more water, but as I'm doing that, I'm picking up and putting away what needs to go in its home, and everything has a home. So that habit of everything having a home, I get to stack it with, let me put that back, because stuff gets left out. If you're living in a house, stuff gets left out. And then start with the smallest version possible, something that feels too easy to skip. Like something that even though your avoider saboteur may show up and want you to skip it, you won't, because it's the smallest version possible. So it may be that you make something obvious, right? You want to go for the wander in the morning, put the shoes by the bed. You want to do more accessing of your day and downloading, and maybe you're a writer and you want to write out your gratitude list for the day. That would be fabulous. Or your wins for the day. Put that journal on the pillow when you make the bed in the morning. Another good habit. Make the bed. You're successful right away if you've already made the bed. So I have a client who wanted to meditate for 20 minutes, and that just wasn't available to her. It wasn't something that was going to, it's not available to any of us to just jump into. So she started with 2 minutes using the Positive Intelligence app because there's so much in the gym that is already set up for you in 2 minute, 5 minute, and 12-minute increments. So we started with 2 minutes. And when she parked her car at work, she did the 2 minutes in the app, which also gave her points, muscle points within the app, because it's a gym, you get muscle points. And that set her up for success. But what it also did was it allowed her neural pathways to shift from the drive-in, from what her brain may have been thinking about was coming for the day, to being in her right brain, which is where exploration and innovation live, and creativity. And then since we have neural pathway connection where we will mirror another person's neural pathways, it's part of our survival instinct. She was walking in this high energy of capability and being in her mind space rather than her brain. Your brain is in your head, and yes, has all these lovely neural pathways that we can program, but we also, your field is where your mind is, and it would take her out of that brain functioning place to into the mind, which is more energy, more aware, more conscious. And that allowed her day to roll in. So she stacked her habits right there. She was already going to work. She did her 2 minutes. She got her PQ reps in. And she walked in the door setting a bar for the matching that would happen throughout the day. And people don't even know we're doing this. You may as well have that neural pathway matching in a high vibration rather than a complaining vibration. So what you might hear, though, are the voices that show up in your head that it's not enough to matter. Well, 2 minutes is enough. 2 seconds is enough. 20 seconds, and then to 2 minutes. But it is enough because it all adds up. And just like if you're worrying for those 2 minutes, that's going to add up and add more anxiety to your life. So it is enough to matter. Any amount is enough. So if you made it 20 seconds, let's celebrate that. Okay. And you may also hear from any number of the judge. Maybe you have the hypervigilant or the hyper rational that makes you want to understand every variable before even starting, which leads to a little bit of the procrastination and action. Pause, take those 20 seconds and say, it is enough. It's a short enough sentence. Use it. It is enough. If you missed a day, your judge may say, well, you may as well quit. You went out and you ate something heavier for dinner and you've been eating so late. How many times have you heard that in your head? Well, I may as well quit. I may as well just add dessert on the way home then. That's the judge, or that's the saboteur that lives in your head that has been programmed in childhood. And this isn't the blame game. It's just there. But as soon as we become aware of it, you can pause and then you can label it. Nice of you to show up, judge, telling me I'm behind, or that I won't accomplish this, or that there's no point. I'm going to shift into my right brain, into my wisdom, and I am going to access my mind, which holds my soul, which is lifelong and isn't going to judge what I did or didn't do. So I am going to take the smallest step that I can possibly take right now. Missing a day or a week isn't failure, it's feedback. Even that feeling of is feedback. It's letting you know that you want something different in your life. You have already evolved to that place to want more in your life, and something in your, likely your brain, isn't allowing you to go there. Okay. So see it as feedback. I had a client who wanted to quit smoking and not an addiction counselor or anything like that. I suggested she shifted the judgment that she was having towards herself around smoking to at least she was taking deep breaths during the day. And then that desire for the smoking because she was taking deep breaths started to diminish. And then she had to work on the habit, right? But because she stopped judging it first, she was able to open that door to possibly allowing herself to quit smoking. And she did succeed. And it came in incremental steps. And yes, there were times where she'd be like, Vicky, I smoked half a pack. I said, okay. Remember when we first started, it was a pack. And I don't placate, but I will absolutely celebrate your wins. And I'm going to be honest that sometimes life lifes and those habits are there. Just last night, I was driving back from picking up meds for the cat, and there's this ice cream place that has dairy-free ice cream that you will swear has a high fat cream in it. It's so good. The first time I had it, I went back to the window and said, I think you're lying to me. It's so good. And I wanted to pull in there and get one. And I said, no, you committed to yourself that you were going to eliminate extra sugar during the week. Saturdays, fair game. But sometimes it doesn't occur to me on Saturday, which is why I set up Saturday. It was because I was hungry. It was the end of the day. That was going to be a quick dopamine hit. It's an old pattern of going to the sugar to raise my frequency. And I said, you know how to do this. So while I'm driving, I did my PQ reps, came home, made the best fish recipe. I'm not even quite sure how I handled that, but go me. And then had a beautiful piece of gluten-free banana bread that I made the night before. So the feedback of, "Oh, I want that sugar." See, you just go for that and you're gonna break this habit that you're creating. It's just feedback. And when you don't judge it, you can say, "Nice try, left brain." I firmly believe in creating a personality for that inner biatch that you got going in there and just say, "Thanks for letting me know, but the feedback is I really need some protein." And that's what I'll do. So missing a day, or even if I had dipped in there and got the ice cream, the feedback would have been, did that feel good to you? Or did it open the door for more judgment? So these habits come because you're present and you're paying attention, and then you can create the ones that eventually run on autopilot so that you don't even think about them. So you stick the habits with joy. Positive emotions will anchor. They will create a grounding. You celebrate immediately after the habit. Like after you do that, whatever it is, like me driving past there and having the very real present in this moment conversation with myself, I celebrated that afterwards. And it was a simple, yes, you did that. Just like when I'm training Buzz and he does something and I use the yes to reinforce that that's the behavior that we would like to see when we're on a walk. So just like you have micro movements, you can have micro celebrations. You can smile, you can fist pump, say, yes, I did that. Become a little kid. I did it. The habits, when they get anchored, the habit of celebrating yourself, when it gets anchored in, then it edges out that tendency to beat yourself up or to see yourself in light. And that is a wonderful gift that you can give yourself. So link your habits to your values. That can be very helpful. When you're walking, you're not just walking, you're caring for the body that allows you to show up and experience this soul, physical, joyful adventure that we call being human. And it allows me to be present for my family, for my work. So you can use that statement. I'm caring for the body that allows me to be present for myself, for my family, for my work, for my community, whatever occurs to you that day, for my plants, for the horses, whatever it is. You're not doing one thing. This isn't about multitasking. You're not doing just one thing. What you are doing is creating the desire that then becomes a habit. So the spark becomes a flame that's like the Olympic torch, right? Like it just keeps rolling. So if you can remember that when you want something, that's great. I want you to want things. I so want you to desire things in your life because that means you're alive. Something is clicking in there. Our soul always wants more and more and more, not stuff. Do not become a hoarder. It wants more experiences, more connections, more learning, expansion. But wanting is simply a spark. Your soul can't do this without your physical body. So your physical body then becomes the habit that, or creates the habit that becomes the fuel. So start small, stack it up, make it obvious. The supplements that I take for my autoimmune process that my body has sit on my counter. And normally I'm a put things away person, but they sit on my counter because I need them out so that I remember to take them. So make it obvious. And then quieting that critic or the judge and listening to that side of you that says, okay, I can understand why I want that dopamine hit or why I want to just give up on this thing that I'm building because focus seems like too much work. And I can also take this one small step. So pick one habit that you've been wanting. The desire is there, right? The spark is there to start. And shrink it to the smallest possible step. You're going to do it for 5 days, and you're going to celebrate every stinking time. So you want to eat more vegetables? Pick one serving a day. One. That's it. I encourage you to share your tiny habits. You can share them with me. If you want to private message me, that's fine. You can email Vicky@VickyBaird.com. You can tag me in social media. You can find me pretty much anywhere, Vicky Baird Coaching. But share it with that person that's living with you, that this is the habit I'm building. This is the thing I am focusing on right now. And here's the one small step I'm going to do. And then I'm going to follow it up with celebration. So if you hear whoops of delight in the house, that's what's going on. Because our life is built in the quiet, small moments, those incremental adding up to completely beautiful moments. And we may as well allow our brilliance to work for us. And you have the capability. I don't want to hear about the things you did and didn't do before. I want to hear about what is today, what matters today, and what would you like to create. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me and for deciding to take those sparks and create a habit and having fun with it so that it becomes so much a part of your cellular self that you can't even believe you get to have this much fun as a human. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next episode. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. If it sparks something, pass it on. And when you're ready to go deeper, just a click away at VickyBaird.com. Trust your gut, quiet the noise. You've got this.